There's a lot of news right now coming out about Michael Jackson, especially after a new HBO documentary called Leaving Neverland is shocking people. I just saw just an hour of it. I couldn't even keep watching it, but there's a crap ton of news coming out with Corey Feldman no longer defending Michael Jackson's, The Simpsons editing out Michael Jackson from, of course, one of their famous episodes, and now T.I., the rapper, is claiming that this is all an agenda to, quote, destroy black culture. Jason, what's going on here? What do you make of all this craziness?
Well, Luke, here's the deal. All right. You have Corey Feldman, who has been one of the staunch proponents that Michael Jackson was not a child abuser. Now, of course, Corey Feldman has named some pretty big Hollywood producer names. He went on Dr. Oz. He's done a lot for child abuse victims, especially Hollywood child abuse victim awareness. Now, until this week, he has defended Michael Jackson. And even through the first part of the documentary, he was hesitant to come out and say this, but now he says he can no longer defend Jackson. And this is huge because, while all this is coming out, you look at, for instance, this Daily Mail story that's been out about 2-3 weeks, but they published a small excerpt of a never-before-seen interview in 1996 with Michael Jackson about these allegations. Now, Macaulay Culkin is another person who's kind of seen a resurgence recently in Hollywood, and there's always been allegations that he abused Macaulay Culkin. Culkin has denied them throughout. However, you watch this, and they bring his name up. And I'm sorry, but Michael Jackson looks severely mentally disturbed in this video. First of all, his nose is literally falling off. If you look at just the picture there, you can see that there's a little black mark. Now, you would think that's just a shading or whatever. No, watch it. It's his fake nose falling apart. It's a tough watch.
Yeah.
And when you see, Luke, go back to you in a second, but when you see the NDA agreements that everybody that was working on this ranch, everybody around him had to sign, and if they had concerns, Luke, they would have to bring it to one of Michael's handlers and not law enforcement. And it was the maids, the help there, that saw him constantly, inappropriately touching children, as well as Culkin. So there's a lot more. I mean, we can get into the T.I., the Simpsons. What's your take on this right now? I know you've seen some of Saving Neverland.
I mean, just the beginning part is extremely disturbing because it shows you how small of steps that Michael Jackson took to kind of acclimate these children and the families, and the way he set up and built his ranch, and the way that he set up the rooms to get away with these things. I mean, there was always a huge debate all throughout Michael Jackson's career whether he was a molester or not. It was the fact that Macaulay Culkin and Corey Feldman were speaking out, also very famous people saying, no, he was never guilty. But now that Corey Feldman flipped, I mean, this totally changes the landscape. Seeing these boys talk, seeing the documentary, seeing all the evidence provided, seeing the family members talk, and see how they were just throwing money to go on crazy vacations, leaving their boys alone, how incremental this done, extremely, extremely, extremely disturbing. And I just had to stop watching it because of how bad it is. And it absolutely makes sense. I don't know if this is cool. The TI comments, I think, are very much out there because the evidence is insurmountable at this point. There's always this huge debate, but I think this has finally put the nail in the coffin about this bigger case. Tell us about this TI thing, because it's a very strong claim to make, and I think it's a bit out there, to say the least.
Well, I don't know how out there it is, my friend. At the same time of T.I. denying that Michael Jackson did any of these things without any firsthand knowledge whatsoever, Luke, I think that's a problem. He's saying that this is racist and that, they're trying to take down a black icon. And I just don't believe that's the case. I don't think that when you're talking about the abuse of children, and most subjects, by the way, race matters. It doesn't. I understand where he's coming from, that, there has been concerted efforts to take down black political leaders in the past, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., even, the character assassination that's gone on after his actual assassination. There's been a lot of stories out there that he's on film with white women that weren't his wife. They've never been produced. There's been allegations that the FBI has those tapes. But I will give T.I. this. There have been a lot of allegations of Elvis Presley being with underage teenage girls in a time where it was much, much different. And the same with Hugh Hefner. Those allegations are out there. So I'm not against investigations into these people. But one of the groups at the forefront of exposing Jackson recently and doing so in a very provocative manner by showing evidence after evidence, file after file, document after document, has been an open secret. And there is no doubt that their film is one of the biggest tools to awaken people to the problem of pedophilia in the entertainment industry. And I'm a little torn here because I don't like censoring history, but The Simpsons has now pulled the classic Michael Jackson, Lisa, it's your birthday.
Wait, before we get into that, because that was a very iconic, huge thing, and this is just really dumb. But what you just mentioned before just gives us a kind of hindsight into this crazy celebritard culture that presents egomania. And I had no idea about Elvis and even Hugh Hefner until you brought it up. And I don't think identity politics should be brought up because that's a whole nother cancerous AIDS mixed into ideology here when it should be about right and wrong. So, I mean, T.I., at one point, yes, let's talk about everyone. Let's not just talk about race here. I don't think this is race related. Michael Jackson ultimately was painting himself white, doing so many nose jobs.
Well, let's stop there because he did have vitiligo. That's not false. Like, he did have vitiligo. In other words, if people don't know what vitiligo is, it's that portions of your skin will become lighter and you almost look like, I don't want to say, a giraffe or whatever, but, it can be very blotchy skin. And he did suffer from that. But that didn't make him facially reconstruct his entire persona through plastic surgery. Again, he had so many plastic surgeries. Forget about the skin color and the alleged skin bleaching and all of that, that he destroyed his nasal cavity. There wasn't enough cartilage there for him to have a nose, Luke. Think about the mental illness of a person who is that famous and is that insecure in their own image that they need that much plastic surgery. It's almost a side issue with the child abuse. Now, we know that Joe Jackson was not easy on his kids. Even Joe Jackson admitted that. But there have been allegations that people, and I'm not going to name them here because, hey, we don't want to get sued, molested Michael Jackson, who were heavily involved in the music industry at the time. And that perhaps is why he turned to this. And I don't doubt that. We've seen people who have been abused become abusers. And even in a short clip that was just released yesterday in that Gayle King R. Kelly interview, she asks him about his sexual abuse as a child and whether it has affected him or not. And he's very defensive at first, but then he actually admits, of course it's affected me and my life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the cycle of abuse just continuing rather than dealing with it, making the problem worse by putting more gasoline on the fire with the celebritard culture, which creates mental illness. Because it's not natural for this to be something that humanity and civilization has to deal with, or an individual has to deal with when he has so much love and so much support and so many people worshiping him. It makes people do really bad things and act crazy. And that's why I think we're seeing a lot of these crazy things. And it's important to highlight here that, erasing the past like the Simpsons are won't fix that. And it's just stupid to see them pull this episode and hide the reality of what the situation was, because destroying history is, of course, a perfect way to repeat it. And I'm disappointed with the Simpsons. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I said, I'm kind of disappointed as well. I'm not necessarily upset that, say, people stop playing R. Kelly songs on the radio, but are we going to stop playing hey, dun, 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 at every sporting event because Gary Glitter.
We're going to get a copyright strike, Jason. Don't do that.
I don't think I'm getting a copyright strike on that one, but who knows? That man, Gary Glitter, is now been a notorious child molester through Operation U-Tree. That is a fact. Okay? Are we going to stop listening to Elton John? Jason, did you say Elton John? Well, it's not debatable that they found CP on Elton John's laptop in an airport. It's tough to find, but it absolutely happened, and people like Russell Brand actually named him as somebody who was abusing children during the pre-taping of his Brand X television show years ago. So are we all stopping listening to Rocket Man? Listen, I think if the allegations against Elton John are true, he should have a fair trial. If found guilty, he needs to be found guilty. He needs to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. We almost never see that with child abusers, by the way, Luke. And then we can make a decision on our own as adults whether or not we want to listen to his music. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Let the people decide. Whitewashing and destroying everything is not going to fix anything. We need more honest, rational discussion and not just trying to shove this underneath the carpet like it doesn't exist. It exists. Hollywood has a huge pedo problem. Let's admit that. Has a huge sexual abuse problem. Let's admit that. And let's deal with it so we don't keep perpetrating it, so we don't allow it to happen. And the way to stop it is, of course, to talk about these things and to let people know the exact details of everything that is going on. So crazy documentary. I don't know what else to say about this, but if you agree with us, share this video with your friends and family members and let us know what you think in the comment section below about this larger issue that society has to deal with. That, again, you're watching the Oscars, you're watching a lot of predators there. And that's a very disturbed culture. Let's get rid of the celebritardness and let's start fixing things. And the first way to do that is by paying attention and informing yourself. Thank you again so much for watching Independent Media. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/we or change.